Alexis Art Space. Got an art journal page today. This one's not a challenge or a mission or anything, I just sat down to play. Sometimes these are the best art journal pages because I don't know where they're going to go and I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm working in my altered book. This is my altered Conquerors book. Had some war pictures and not nice pictures, but I liked the size and I liked the size of the book and the paper, and it was really cool. So I have made a video of getting this ready for an art journal video. I have made a video on getting this ready for an art journal, as in taking out pages, etc, etc. So I will link that below if I remember. I tend to forget when I do say things in videos. If I do forget and you want to see the video, just leave a comment and I will do it. So I've just put some tape down the middle of the spine to reinforce it. That's just adhesive paper tape I got from Daiso, which is a Japanese $2.80 store in Australia. Everything's $2.80, or most things are. It just reinforces the spine and it gives a flat surface to work on, especially when between signatures your pages can actually separate and come apart. So what I like to do is either use some paper or some of this paper sticky tape to reinforce the spine. So what I've done is laid down some gesso using some Aldi gesso. Last year in 2008, Aldi had their art stuff out and had these little pots of gesso. They were like $3, so I tried some and it's pretty decent for the price. So I dried off all the gesso and now I decided to play with my oxides. I don't play with them as much as I should, so especially my art journal. I basically bought them in for my business to use with stencils and stamps at my craft show I do once a year. And of course the ones that we open and use have to go in my stash. Yeah, I know. I know. So I've decided I need to use them a lot more because they are very fun, the oxides. I also have distress inks that I used many years ago at the same craft show with stencils and stamps as well. Don't use those often either. Just excuse me if I sound a bit funny. I have a sore mouth at the moment. Maybe too much talking. So just using the packaging technique can't even talk today. Packaging technique to apply colour to the pages. Now when you hit the oxides with water, they do become a bit more pastel, and for some reason I may have been hitting them with too much water, or my ink pads might be getting a bit dry, I'm not sure. So the ideal thing with oxides is you can build up multiple layers, and that's what I continue to do. So I decided to directly adhere the pad to the paper as opposed to doing the packaging technique. That got me a brighter, more intense look. So when you're doing oxides, you just have to dry the layers in between, because if I go and add another colour over the top, it will muddy up. But if the colours are dry, you can see the layers stacking on top of each other. I do apologise, it's about my 5th voiceover in a row, and I think doing 5 in a row is possibly too much for my voice when I'm usually not used to talking. But I have quite a few personal business / busy time the next couple of months, so I'm trying to get some of these voiceovers of older art journal pages I've done and cleared out off my laptop so I can film some new videos. My laptop is looking a little full. So just playing around with tilting the pages and tilting the book in a minute to get some drips and splatters happening, which in the end you can't really see a lot of, but it's sort of the process of building an art journal page. You build the background, and then you build the middle ground, then you build the foreground and the focal points, and it all sort of, you can see some of it in the background. So I love some of the drips and splatters, how they run across the page. So just using normal tap water with the oxides. And I should have cut some of this drying time out. I do apologise. So this is a great background to do with card making, with art journaling, with even scrapbooking. I just find it goes a bit lighter on the gesso, and sometimes you see some of the gesso texture on your pages, but I tend to get a better look when I put gesso under the oxides for some reason. I don't know why. Probably doing it wrong. Let me know below, do you use oxides? Do you gesso in your art journal before you, or do you just go on top. The reason I did just this page as well is I had a black and white photo on one of the sides that I just wanted to dull down. You can barely see the text in the background, but sometimes I do like the text coming through as sort of a faint focal image in the back. Then I decided to add some splatters, so I was inking up the, putting some ink on the packaging, and then spraying it with lots of water and dripping it, which I like that, because I found the first few layers I did were a bit pastel for my liking. I don't like a lot of pastels, but I do like how this turned out. I'll have a go at anything in my art journal. Art journals are my place to play, experiment, and just have some fun. If it doesn't work, the worst comes to worst, you glue the 2 pages together and no one needs to know. And I don't upload it on YouTube. But you do see quite a few of my failures, because art journaling is not all about pretty pages and loving every page. Art journaling for me is taking time out of my day, sitting at my art desk, getting my fingers dirty, and taking that time just to play and just to relax. It's my time just to be me. And if me ends up making a bloody mess on the page and it looks horrible, that's okay. I had fun doing it for the 20 minutes, half an hour. I think this one took just on an hour. I've condensed it down to 20 minutes because I've sped up this video 3 times, which is usually the speed I do my videos. So this took me about an hour. Probably about an hour and a half, because I did turn it off between drying times and things. So just building it up on the background. Yeah, probably took me more than an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours, I'm not sure. I know I have like an hour of footage, so I often stop in between. And maybe go and make dinner, maybe come back to it the next day, just depends. So underneath I've just got a piece of what we call deli paper when we go in Australia to the supermarket. Go to the deli and ask for small portions of things. My daughter loves cabana, so we often buy a lot of that. And we often buy just like a few slices of meat just for that meal, because I find it doesn't last very long. So if you don't eat it that day, for some reason I put it in my fridge and it just doesn't last very long. So we often just buy for the meal because we're quite close to supermarkets. So I decided once I dried my background I wanted to add some text, and I went through my text stamps and I found this one. This one's from the Reject Shop. So I thought instead of taking the letters off the acrylic block, I just left them on. You know when you get clear stamps, you get like 2 plastic pieces of acetate and the stamps are stuck on one. I didn't remove the stamps, I just inked them straight up because it was the alphabet, and I really wanted some letters, but I didn't really want you to read the letters, so it didn't bother me that the letters were going to be half printed or half printed, or like just a few letters scattered here and there. So that's a hint if you've got a sheet of stamps like alphabets, because they're tiny little buggers to get off and arrange. Well, these ones aren't quite so tiny, but they can be. And just wiping off the ink onto that sheet of paper I will use eventually in something, or store it for 100 years and maybe use it then. I've got loads of background papers. I was cleaning something last night and discovered some I'd made last year, and I must get them out and use them. So just drying off the stamping as well. The stamping didn't take as long to dry as the background. Then I decided I loved this page so much, so I actually went and took the book to my computer and scanned it and printed out a few pages, and also scanned it into my computer. So that's a tip as well. If you like backgrounds in your art journal, before you go any further, go ahead and scan them on your computer or take copies of them, and they look really, really cool. So then I go, oh, what am I going to do in the background? So I want to incorporate more of my art into my art, if that makes sense. So these couple of drawings I did, oh my god, probably would be 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I love drawing in black pen, and these are all black pen sketches done with no pencil to start with, just pen to paper. Copying this girl's face may have been something I copied from the internet. I think that castle was something I copied. I'm a great copier. I don't have a lot of imagination to come up with my own faces or come up with my own images, but I can take an image like this face and basically copy it. I've been able to do that ever since I was a little girl. I was never into colouring books. I would love colouring books for their images and their cartoon figures, and I would grab scrap paper and I would redraw them and they would be almost identical. drawing with a black pen without pencil first frees up my mind to think more about what I'm drawing and allows me to, I suppose, get it right the first time. I don't have the chance to get it wrong. I don't know. My brain's funny that way. So I've got 3 or 4 sketchbooks. I must get into doing that again. I haven't done it for a while. And I do it as a stress reliever too. It's great to, I don't know, it's my way of equivalent of colouring, but I draw and Zentangle. So I just stuck those on with a glue stick and decided I wanted to continue her hair because it had been cut off in the book. So I grabbed the Audi gesso and couldn't be bothered getting up and getting a brush, so I used the good old finger, God's paintbrushes. So I dried that off, and then I grabbed out these Chalkola paint markers. They're supposed to be for like chalkboards and non-porous surfaces, but they work ideally in my art journal. I grabbed these for a couple of dollars when Amazon first came to Australia a couple of years ago. You signed up to Amazon Prime, it was like $5, and then you could purchase these for $2 instead of $20, or 90% off, and I got like 4 different sets or something. And then I did all my shopping for Christmas that year on Amazon Prime, and then cancelled my membership. Probably that was not the idea of that, but that's alright. If I go to buy off Amazon again, I just join up for a couple of months and then I cancel it. I don't go shopping very often, but it is handy to get some stuff. So I decided to use, these are a paint pen, so I decided to use them as a paint pen and draw and then drag out the paint with water before it dries to get that shadowing effect. Trying to do that more in my art journals is I see some people that can do shading and can do beautiful illustrations and colorings, and the people seem to come alive and jump off the page. And that's done a lot with shading and shadowing, and I'm trying to teach myself how to do that. So a lot of these markers I hadn't used before, so I had to just prime them onto that excess paper just to get them started. Also, if they do sit for a while, they don't like sitting for a while, so you do have to prime them to get them started again. I found the pens are great. They work great on paper, which is obviously the face I'm drawing at the moment. They work great on the gessoed surface, but they don't tend to work great on top of each other, which I've later discovered, and I've discovered that in another video as well. They don't tend to like to draw on top of each other. So this is the part of the art journaling that I love. I love to sit down there, and I obviously spilt water and trying to clean that up. I love to sit down there and sort of illustrate and add things to my drawings, and I love to sit there and Zentangle and doodle. I don't do that enough. I don't know about everyone else, but let me know below. I tend to go through phases where I will do similar techniques for a couple of months, and then I will stop doing that and I'll move on to something else. Like all these black hand-drawn drawings, I did those about 4 to 5 years ago. I've done a couple so far, like lately, but the majority of them, the majority of the 4 sketchbooks I have, were done back then. And I haven't got back to that. I've had more fun, whether I've grown as an art journaler or whether I've grown as a person. I've moved away from that, I don't know, but it's weird if you look through my art journals and my videos. A lot of them aren't filmed in like sequence. I often put them up out of sequence, but I tend to do the same things, and then I'll use the same products and then move on, and then the products or the what I do sits there and doesn't come back. So I must bring that sort of drawing back because I do enjoy it. That was a whole lot of waffle, wasn't it? Okay, just adding some more colour to her hair. I decided to extend her hair, and I needed to put the gesso down because I didn't want to, the oxides were still water reactive, so I didn't want to water react them again with the paint markers, so that's why I put the gesso down. And I wanted the paint markers to really pop as well. When I'm putting the paint markers on the white paper, it's just regular photocopy paper I used, and onto the gesso, I wanted them to look bright and look sort of the same. So using that same technique, just scribbling, this is my version of colouring in, scribble some paint down and then do it with a paintbrush. So I do enjoy doing this part of it, I just don't enjoy colouring in colouring books. As I said, my brain is weird, must be wired differently to everyone else, because I usually don't. Everything in my life, I never fit in that box. I'm always outside the box. It's like, it's somewhere like I like to be. Even with, for example, Centrelink, I'm never in their box. I'm always outside their box. And trying to fit me and my life into a little box does not work. So just doing some, I liked the colour of her hair to be sort of stripy and different, so I don't know, I didn't know what I was doing when I was colouring her, I was just having fun. So I decided she's a queen and she needs her castle, so I chose her picture first and then I chose the castle to do as well. So I am going to try to do this more, incorporate more of my art into my art, and I want to start photographing and scanning some of these art pages and using them in other art pages. I've seen other artists do that as well, and that looks really cool, but I just haven't jumped on that bandwagon yet. And it'd be fun to use these, make smaller things of these as well, smaller images and things. I don't know. I tend to copy a lot of other artists. I get a lot of inspiration myself, but I tend to copy their style. That's the other thing I've found is I look at certain artists while I'm just colouring in here, and I apologise for my big head getting in the way, but due to my low vision, sometimes when I'm doing detailed work, my big head has to get quite close to the page. Otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm trying to find a style, or I don't know, with my artwork. It seems to be all over the place, but you look at, I'm going to name a few artists, for example, like Delusions, Diane Reevely. If you look at her artwork, you can instantly tell that's her style. Another one I look at on the internet is James Burke, and he's got a certain style, and all his, I suppose, drawings and images are sort of, I don't know, on, like, you can instantly recognise they're his. And another one is Courtney Diaz, the Little Link. She doesn't have many videos now, but she had a lot of older ones on YouTube. And her little characters and critters are uniquely her. So if you spot one of those, you know either the artist has been inspired by her or that's her work. So I don't know. I'm trying to define what my style is and trying to work out what I like and what I don't like in art journaling and things. But unfortunately, I haven't come across that yet. I tend to like too much stuff. I tend to like to experiment with a lot of stuff. I don't know, I haven't really found a style, and a few other artists I see have a particular, like they do junk journaling, and all their junk journals are along the same style of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Does anyone get me, or am I just rabbiting on? So I decided this needed a border, and this is one of my go-to borders to fill in dead spaces, big loopy things. I have done this before in one of my other art journal pages a little while back. It's a great way to add a border and sort of take up space that is there, but you're not wanting to cover it all up. So I wanted to obviously add a border because I like borders to my pages, because it sort of neatens them up into a box, and I put borders on probably 90% of my pages, whether it's just a squiggle or whether it's actually looking at a couple more in this book. I haven't done borders. I'm lying, aren't I? Okay, a majority of my pages I do borders with. I just like the look of them. Actually, I've only done a couple in this book. So this one's my go-to border when I have a fair bit of space, and there's a fair bit of space around the castle and around her that I sort of want to fill in but not crowd. I don't know, do you get that? I don't know. See, I should do a couple of videos where I'm actually working and talking through my process, because you'd get a fascinating inception into my brain and how it works. Maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe I'm weird enough as it is. So I just decided to colour in those scallops and decide to make them alternatively pink and purple with black lines. So going over the pink and the purple with the black pen didn't work as well, but I managed to get there in the process. I did tell you earlier, these pens don't like to write on top of each other. And that's one experiment I like to do with supplies, is see what works on what things and what doesn't work. But I'm really happy with this page. It was the first page I did in this new art journal. Well, first page, it's not the first page in the art journal, but it's the first page I did in the art journal. I don't work like page 1, page 2, page 3 in my art journal. I basically pull the journal open and find a page to work on for a couple of reasons. If you start in an altered book, or even in any sketchbook, if you're sticking stuff in any art journal, if you work from page 1, page 2, page 3, etc., you can bend the spine, and I've been there and done that, and it puts a lot of pressure on the spine. So if you work a couple of pages in the front, a couple of pages in the back, a couple of pages in the middle, and sort of alternate that way, it works a lot better, and your book will hopefully stay together. My goal for this one, this is my second, third, fourth altered art book. I am determined that this one will stay in its cover. My other 3 have popped their covers, and one grew to double its size just because I stick too much in them. I am fairly new to working in altered books. I've only been working in altered books a couple of years, and I tend to pick really, really thick books that have really, really lots of pages. I think this one has like 50 pages. And I think when I did originally pull this book apart, I joked to say I do a page a week, maybe. Hasn't happened. We're now at the end of April, and I think I've done 2 pages. Sorry, no, we're not the end of April, we're end of March, and we've done like 2 pages. See, I have these great big plans and nothing comes to fruition, so I decided in the middle I needed some text. I was too lazy to go find stickers or anything like that, so I decided to love my handwriting. My handwriting sucks, and even my daughter tells me that. My 11-year-old says, "Mum, why do I have to practice my handwriting when yours is so bad?" It's like, child, do as you're told, not as I do. Don't we all tell children that? So I'm quite impressed with the writing on this one. I sort of planned out where I was going to place it, and it sort of worked. Sometimes my handwriting, I don't like it. I try. I envy good people that can just handwrite on scrapbook pages and art journal pages, and it's beautiful, but I am trying more. So this year is all about more putting me in my journal, more of my handwriting, more of my drawings, more of me. So just going around and putting a bit of black definition around the paper cutouts or the paper images so they pop from the page and they don't get lost into the background. You could also do this with a Stabilo oil pencil as well, which I've got on my wish list to get one day. I've got a lot on my wish list, but when I have an equivalent in my stash that will work, I can't really justify going and buying a new product. So I'm trying to use up what I've got. My mantra for this year was I was going to go on a huge spending spree and not buy anything, and I thought, well, that'll last like a week. So I decided to use more than I buy. So I thought I can buy little bits here and there, and if I use more than I buy, I will be happy at the end of the year. We'll see how that works. Probably not going to work, and I don't know how I'm going to keep track of it, but it sounds good, and it means I can still do a little bit of shopping. So I decided she looked a bit plain with the hair and the dress, so I decided to give her the measles. So I gave her some black spots on her dress, and I really love how this worked out, and white and black spots alternating in her hair on the colours, because I just could. And I love this page. It's probably one of my favourite pages I've made in about 12 months. I just love the colours. I love how it turned out. I had fun doing it. It worked. Some of the art journal pages recently I don't like how they turned out, but I still had fun doing them, if that makes sense. For me, art journal is never about the finished product. It's great when I get something that I like, and I do like this one, but that's not the aim of art journaling for me. It's my fun time. So we're coming to about the end of the video, so I thank you all for watching. If you're still here, I've got some photos at the end showing you a few close-ups because it's a bit hard to see the detail when we're all the way zoomed out and when my big head is in the way. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and then you can see all my other videos, and the notification bell always helps as well. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.